Satnam and welcome. Today is the second episode of Courageous Conversations. And Courageous Conversations was an idea born out of a few different elements. Number one, a few years ago when George Floyd was murdered, I think it really shed light on all the injustices that have been happening in the world and asking all of us to step forward to reclaim our experience in the West, reclaim our experience in terms of colonization and capitalism and imperialism and all of those things. And really for me as a South Asian Kundalini yoga teacher is to center the voices of other South Asian teachers so that there is an opportunity to hear and to listen in to conversations and mindset and approaches that Indigenous teachers are having around the practice of yoga and meditation, and to offer you an insight and a window into what that looks like for each one of us, because we're all unique. It's not a monolith. And so each conversation is going to be slightly different. Welcome to everybody. My name is Salimah, yoga therapist, and I'm the lead instructor, lead director for YogaVision's Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training Program. All the links are below, so if you're interested in that, please go ahead and click those links and book a discovery call so that we can learn more about each other. Today, I have with me, no stranger to YogaVision, Vanessa D'Souza, and Vanessa is a graduate of our Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training Program. We met a handful of years ago now, a chance encounter at a yoga festival in Toronto, where we both live. And as you know, Vanessa has been part of the channel for a long time, bringing the embodiment of Kundalini Yoga to you so that you can practice with us. And so, without further ado, Vanessa, welcome. It's great to have you here. I'd love to know more about you, where you come from, where you're living in the world right now, and what you're doing with your day-to-day life. So let's jump right in.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me, Salimah. It's always a pleasure to be part of YogaVision and, keeping me connected with this part of my journey is really amazing. So thank you for having me. So I started practicing yoga about 15 years ago, and I was pulled to become a yoga teacher in about 2017. Um, and I have no regrets doing that. It's a huge part of my life, a huge part of my healing journey, and it's really helped me discover and learn who I truly am. So my background, my ancestry is originally from Goa, which is in India, but it's a colonized land. So um, my name is Vanessa D'Souza, which may seem a little odd for some people. I have a Portuguese last name, but on the outside, I look very South Asian. Um, so there's a lot of layers and complexities there for me already. I was also born in Kenya, which is another layer to who I am. And I'm three generations in Kenya. I moved to Canada when I was about two. So I grew up in Canada and would consider myself Canadian. But I always get the question when I'm meeting people, where are you from? I'm from Canada because I've lived here since I was two. So I don't really know any other place but Canada. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my background, and where I am right now. I'm a yoga teacher and I'm also a social worker. So I spend a lot of my time giving back and also receiving a lot of love. So I try to give out love, and my clients and my students also give me back a lot of love, which is great.
Amazing. Yes, that infamous question, where are you from? But where are you really from? And, on the surface, it is a question of belonging. And underneath that is also challenges our own sense of belonging. Am I not Canadian because I look this way? And am I Indian, even though we have left many generations ago? And so I can definitely feel into that with you, where my family is also from Kenya, so, and many generations removed from India. So it changes the dynamic and the lens from which we take this conversation. So Vanessa, let's dive in now. I'd like to know more about your experience teaching yoga, being a practitioner of yoga. What's that been like for you to walk into rooms where you're teaching, to walk into rooms where you're a student? What's that been like for you?
As a South Asian teacher walking into different spaces, I've had mixed experiences. On, some occasions I'll walk into a room and I'll feel othered. I'll be the only South Asian person in the room, and I'll hear, Sanskrit, I'll hear um, Gurumukhi, and I don't understand Sanskrit and Gurumukhi, and people may look to me to, decode these things. Um, and then, feeling as if I have to be a guru or a know-it-all on the history, the culture, when I'm also just still learning myself. Um, it's been a mixed experience, and it's also helped me connect with my roots, being someone who's come from a colonized place in India, from being someone who's not been born in India and has been removed from India, and having parents who grew up in Kenya who aren't very connected with the culture themselves, being able to learn about the history, learn about some of the languages, traditions, even when it comes to the Ayurvedic practices, it's helped me connect with who my ancestors were. So it's been very enriching to me as a person, um, but it's also been a bit othering. When I walk into a room and there's no South Asian teachers or no South Asian students, and I'm the only one, I feel like I stand out. I feel like, do I belong in this space?
Yes. And I think that that's a really interesting point, that yoga and meditation, Ayurveda become entry points for those of us who are, um, for all intents and purposes, born and raised here, also in a Western context. And so it's like a reaching back into those original places inside of us that um, we kind of get, what's the word? We get prescribed for us, and at the same time have to spend time claiming for our own. I remember definitely times as a child where my parents were playing Indian music or Bollywood music, and I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to relate or connect to that because it was a point of being teased or othered. That's a polite way to say teased and othered and racism, to be honest. And I really appreciate that we have this delicate balance, that part of it is claiming our own birthright, and at the same time moving through hurdles of what we've been taught as being appropriate or right or wrong in our growing up. So I appreciate that. I do want to say here that when we use the term South Asian, we're referring to all the area around India. So not just India itself, but Pakistan, all the islands surrounding Pakistan, Bangladesh, northern regions, and anybody in the diaspora. So wherever you may live in the world, if your roots or some part of your roots come from those countries, this is part of that conversation. You're all part of that conversation. So just wanted to make that clarification. So what's your advice now, having heard you talk about othering and reclaiming, what's your advice for non-South Asian teachers as they step into this mix, right along with us in some ways, side by side, and also from very different perspectives? What's your advice for that context?
I would say to be your authentic self, which is one of the biggest messages that yoga teaches us. Don't try to be anything that you're not. Do what feels right in your heart. You know, in the East, in the South Asian context of yoga, um, we don't believe that yoga belongs to us. It's a gift that is here for everybody. It's for the world, and it's in the West where we want to take on this ownership that yoga or this flow belongs to me and I'm going to make money off it or I'm going to make the views off it. But in the East, we have a different way of viewing it, that it's a gift for everybody. So when I first came to know and learn about Kundalini Yoga, I saw a lot of non-South Asian teachers adopting the names or the way of dress or the lifestyle of Sikh people. And at first, I felt it to be very gimmicky. It felt kind of odd and strange to me, um, especially as someone who, on the outside, looks South Asian, but due to colonization, due to growing up in Canada, had to put aside a lot of traditional Indian ways of life. It kind of stirred up different thoughts and feelings in me where these people who were not South Asian were freely able to adopt this lifestyle without being teased, without being othered. Um, and, you know, they were having this experience that I felt I couldn't have because I wouldn't fit into the culture here. Um, but, you know, speaking with you, meeting some of them, learning from some of them, this is their authentic path. And, you know, if that resonates with them, who am I to say don't do it? Um, but I would always say be your authentic self. Do what feels right for you. And, you know, if that means adopting a different name, adopting a different lifestyle, then do that. But and I have to take the same advice for myself. I have to do what feels right for me as a yoga teacher, as a South Asian yoga teacher. So that would be, yeah, that would be my advice. Be your authentic self no matter what.
Yeah, and I think that the way that you talk about it really reminds me that you know, yoga belongs to all, and that when we feel ourselves drawn to particular practices, there's a reaching back past the time of colonization, like a reaching back generations and generations to this concept, this idea that there is a oneness. And had we not been inspired by hate and greed, there was always this underlying feeling of we belong to each other, we're responsible for each other, and that yoga is a practice 5,000, 10,000 years old, depending on which text you read and where you source information from, that allows us to go there. And I think the modern, I'm going to add to your piece, is that the modern take on be your authentic self is to also listen, learn, research, explore, and recognize that a lot of what yoga is coming to be is through a lens that is Western in its approach. And so decolonizing, which is part of what this conversation is about, is to pull away the layers of what has happened and reach into a place of how do we take responsibility for our own personal legacies in all of this? And what is the body of yoga that we can, in some ways, recreate, in some ways, reclaim, in some ways, let go of, you know? So the very heavy emphasis on the bodiness of it or the perfection of it are things I think that have translated here in the West, which may not have been that much of a priority, you know, back in its origins. Do you resonate with that?
I do. And you know, something else that kind of came to mind now is sharing the space and not taking up the space. Um, you know, a lot of the big companies in the West, you know, they don't embody the values of the origins of yoga? Are there South Asian people at these tables making decisions, or is the room very non-South Asian? So part of sharing our gift is also being included in the decisions and the marketing. When we see ads for yoga clothing and things like that, are we being included in these spaces? So I think that's also important for me to see, and something that I would like to see more of in the future here in the West is that we're able to share this gift, but we also want it to be included in 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 this world, in the sphere in the West.
Right. And I think, as a business owner, to make sure that the images that we put across are inclusive. And
Mhm.
so, it's a diverse range of people. As YogaVision is an entity on Instagram or an entity on YouTube, that there's a way to come across that means this is a practice for all, not just if you look a specific kind of way. And so not perpetuating stereotypes, but rather reclaiming, like, you're a yoga teacher and so am I. And so why wouldn't we be in our own videos about what it means, and to give another option in terms of how it comes across, how it feels, and also who the teachers are and what framework and what lens we bring to it. So yeah, we want to be included at the table, and sometimes you have to bypass that table and actually create our own tables. And that's what this conversation is about. There are lots of really great resources on Instagram. ABCD Yogi is a really good one. I'll drop the links below. And I think, to your point, places like Yoga Alliance, Yoga Journal, all of these places have really, they're really emphasize a particular kind of look and feel to yoga that doesn't necessarily include all of us. And by all of us, I mean BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, not necessarily larger people, not necessarily people who are differently abled, queer people. So there's a whole conversation that's missing. And now it's our opportunity, now our responsibility, I think, as teachers at the table to say, this is actually what I want to look at. This is actually what I want to be informed by. So I appreciate that, to your point, that it's our time now. And if we don't take it, it may not ever be given, but we need to take it.
Yes.
So last question, how can yoga be a tool for healing ancestral trauma from colonization? Let's get Yeah. How can yoga be a tool for healing ancestral trauma from colonization?
Well, for me, as someone who comes from a colonized land, um, my name, my religion, my, holidays are all very Western. And I was never really encouraged to connect with anything South Asian. Um, I was always very curious, and practicing yoga, learning about yoga, listening to mantra, they've all helped me connect with that side in a very safe way. Growing up in Canada, we wanna believe that it's a very multicultural place and everybody's accepted. But I remember being bullied as a child. I remember people making fun of my skin color, making fun of um, asking me to speak in an accent. I remember those things. Um, but being able to connect with the teachings, the music, the history, the practices, like Ayurvedic practices, resonate with me so much. I love the natural healing, the practices. those things resonate with me so much. And I incorporate using a neti pot, dry brushing. I try to eat an Ayurvedic diet as much as I can because I've learned I don't have a strong digestive fire by working with an Ayurvedic practitioner. So, eating certain things don't work for me, but eating warm cooked food, similar to the food that we would have in India, really work with me. So getting back in touch with my roots has been so healing for me on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. I grew up Catholic, but I don't resonate with the religion anymore. I don't practice it anymore. It's just not something I really believe in. Um, and yoga has taught me that, the universe or God is within me, and it's up to me to cultivate that relationship. And something I've kind of learned is religion can be used as a tool to control, where spirituality will set us free. And I'd rather practice something that's gonna set me free than control me. So I feel like it's really helped me learn about myself and put me on a path of freedom.
I love it. I love that. And I think too that let me add some more here, is that when our nervous systems are stronger, we have the ability to be activists. We have the ability to stand up for ourselves. And also, just on that note, that it's because of yoga, everything about the polyvagal theory is starting to get known. We're having conversations about the nervous system because yoga works. Why does it work? Oh, science has verified that this idea of helping our nervous system become stronger, to heal, to regulate ourselves is really an important component of modern life. Where does that knowledge come from? These ancient practices that have been held by teachers one after the other, so that it now becomes even more relevant today. So I think that we're all blessed that you found the practice that allows you to be free and to be the real Vanessa, the real Vanessa D'Souza, and to be here with us today. So I thank you for taking that journey. It's been incredibly powerful to watch you from the moment we met at that yoga show all the way to now, where these conversations are becoming even more real and more activated. I have a final 5 for you. These are speed rounds, so we can wrap up our conversation and also give everyone a little bit more about Vanessa D'Souza and what you're all about. So Vanessa, best advice you have ever received?
Stay kind.
Stay kind. Favorite moment in yoga class?
When I see a student just drop their shoulders and smile.
A mantra that you love?
Satnam. Truth is my name.
I heard a nuance to that, that truth is that there is no I.
Mm.
So let's see how we can make that work. An important book you've read?
I just finished reading a book called The Things You Can Only See When You Slow Down by Hainam Sunam. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a Korean monk. And I live in such a fast-paced world. I'm working so much and trying to do so much. But it was an important reminder for me to slow down and see the world around me.
And do you have any pets?
I do have a dog. Her name is Mamacita. She, she's a American Pocket Bulldog. She looks really scary, but she's the sweetest thing ever. She doesn't even bark.
On that note, it was a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so glad that you turned into a dog mama and that you got the perfect baby that you needed to. Lots of love, Vanessa. We'll see you in the next video.
Thank you, Satnam.
Bye.